yo, it's your boy Agent Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. -1, no Anthony tonight. He is out enjoying a Knicks game, some sort of sports game. But either
Yeah.
way, we have the ever lovely AlphaDean from the Cypher Unlimited crew. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and subscribe to us over on YouTube. It is a great help for our channel. We really appreciate all the support we've gotten so far. But without further ado, Al, what are we doing here tonight? Well, tonight we're here with the ever-lovely creator, AlphaDean, who's here to talk to us about his Septemvirate Legacy Cypher System setting book that is incoming. But, you know, I'll let him tell us a bit more about it, give us a little rundown, and then we'll learn even more about it with my questions. So, Dean, tell us a bit about Septemvirate Legacy.
Well, I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to give you the intro that you probably read on the back of a book or in the inner cover. And just so everybody understands, I call this Neo-Mythic Afro-Punk. So this is the setting, this is the flavor, this is the style. And it goes something like this. Where myth walks on lightning and the gods echo in your marrow. Welcome to Pangelus, a world unmoored from the ground and forged in the crucible of god fire and memory. Civilization clings to survival atop drifting sky claves. Vast floating cities that orbit ancient truths and forgotten wars. Below lies an untamed land, the bleed, a rift line where reality buckles and the old world still screams beneath the surface. And the skies crackle with the power, the primordial force that binds matter to meaning, a river of possibilities coursing through every soul, just like a breath. It's called Mra. Here, you are more than mortal. You are an echo born, touched by the 7 divine birthrights, marked by the storm, flame, dream, beast, and absence itself. You shape destiny through martial legacies, each a mythic path carved by gods and reinterpreted by your soul. Your combat is art, and your art is prophecy. And that's what the Septemvirate Legacy is going to be all about, guys. It's, you know, all the things I love. Wuxia, pulp, superheroes, you know, and Afrofuturism, you know, some sci-fi fantasy stuff that we don't see a lot of. So, you know, without further ado, Al, you said you had a couple of questions for me, so let's jump in and I'll see what I can answer.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And the speaking of the 7 forces or whatever have you immediately gets me to thinking that you're changing some stuff about how the characters are built, maybe. But regardless of that, I know you've mentioned it off camera to us and you've spoken to us about the things you're changing, but what are some of the major additions or changes you're making to the base of Cypher System within Septemvirate Legacy, like within how the rules are run or however?
Well, like most games, most things that come in Cypher System, I'm not changing anything. It's more additions and more reskinning of what's already there. So the first thing I did was, now there is going to be the option there, you know, in the core of the game, because everything is based on the number 7, Septemvirate, you know, so on and so forth. Septemvirate, for those who don't know, is a council or a gathering, a conclave of 7. And the story is basically that 7 gods came together to end a divine war thousands of years ago. And now in the aftermath, humanity is rebuilding, you know, but they live, like I said, they live in skyclaves. They live in these floating cities. You know, some of the cities actually have orbits that they traverse. The cities dock with each other in the heavens, you know, things like this, you know, so it's going to be rich in flavor. But so one of the things I did was, instead of like most of the time in Cypher, there are just the 4 types. What I did was I actually have 7 types that are connected to the gods. I do also have 4 types. You know, if you don't want to go that route, you know, I do have 4 more traditional, you know, types that reflect the adept, speaker, warrior, and so on and so forth. And we'll talk about those a little bit. But the 7 types are connected to the 7 gods. So, I mean, I don't know, should I tell you about the, yeah, you know, I guess I can tell you about the 7 gods. real
Yeah,
quick.
definitely. I'm definitely down to hear what the 7 like types are basically.
Okay, well, let's do it this way. Um, let me talk about the 7 gods first, and then we can talk about the types, how they connect to the 7 gods. Okay. And basically, instead of foci, I call them legacies because you're literally taking on the legacy of a god. You're adopting their ideology and so on and so forth. So this is where I think this is going to shine because it's going to show you the power of Cypher in shifting. I'm going to say the words, your paradigm, into seeing how Cypher is very easy to tell these narrative stories with a mythic slant. So the 7 gods, there's Mazani, the aggregate. Mazani is all about balance. The aggregate is the one god that is 2, and is all about balance, reflection, duality. Um, and Mazani's legacies, her martial path, whatever you want to call it, she calls them harmonies, or they call them harmonies. Each harmony refines itself into clarity and paradox, into perfection. So as conflict is clarity and paradox is perfection. Um, and what's cool about it is I've created 7 styles or 7 harmonies for each god. So everything delineates into these 7s. One of her harmonies would be like, if you were to choose that, would be wields the twin glyphs. And basically you fight with a mirrored construct and glyph symmetry, turning that into a rhythm. Then there's rain, the tempest. And that's exactly what she calls her legacies, are tempest. Rain embodies the storm, motion, elemental defiance. Her forms are kinetic, disruptive, liberating, dancing between sky and thunder. And her, one of the styles, her featured tempest is moves like the unchained wind, which is fluid, evasion, and aerial grace, allows you to ride the storm as a blade unseen.
And just for clarity, right? So the
Yes,
harmonies, and then I've already forgotten what you've called it for her,
tempest.
the tempest, right? That's just what foci are called for each of the gods, right? Like they're
Correct.
just like you're just flavoring it like crazy,
Right. It's just
basically.
flavor. It's just
Yeah,
flavored name.
just
When you
want to
think
make sure.
about it,
Yeah,
it's supposed to lean into the concept of the god. So
makes
um,
sense.
these are literally their styles of martial arts, but it goes deeper in trying to get the philosophies of how they look at the world. So when you think about, like I said, like when we talk about Mazani, she's about duality. So her, that's why it's all about harmony, and her or I keep saying her, I should say their philosophy is just that. So all of those harmonies are going to reflect that. They're going to reflect that philosophy from godhood. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with rain. You know, the tempest. It's all about the storm. So it's always going to be something a little bit chaotic or wild about, untethered about what you're going to get when you deal with rain.
I dig that.
Um,
I dig that. I like how you're setting it up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stratus is the god who teaches about the sacred oaths, passion, pain, oath-born power, and battlefield clarity. And he calls his paths, they're called doctrines. You know, and I use you. One thing you're going to notice about as you read it, even in the quick start, it's going to be written. It's written in a very uh, descriptive, prolific manner because I want to continually build on the the legacy and the myth that it is, because the whole concept is, one of the things I say this uh, about this whole thing is that you are a myth personified. Your player is a myth personified. Um,
I would say then definitely like again having each god have a unique name for what their focus are. It really leans heavily into that. I'm digging that a lot.
cool. I'm glad that's resonating. Um, After Stratus, there's Pallador, and he's the god of all mythic, of all beasts, both mythic and mundane. Um, Palador's legacies are primal evolutions, and he calls them strains. Each strain is a survival bred philosophy of dominance, instinct, and perfect predation, becoming the perfect predator. Um, One of his featured strains is going to be called Wields the Apex Fang. It wields the Apex Fang, so it's clear. And basically, this is a style where you channel bloodlust and explosive violence to tear through the unworthy. Um, Madagascar.
Explosive violence. I like that phrase.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm using a lot of language like that. You're going to hear me, and I'm leaning into it real heavily. Um, Madagascar is the god of dreams, and that's literally what he calls his legacies. Madagascar, they flow from unreality. His dreams are surreal, prophetic, untethered from time. They distort truth and reshape fate. One of the styles that I'm just bringing up is his dreams, the fight before it begins. So that particular style is like basically you strike with inevitability. You've kind of already seen how the battle ends. So it's a lot of little fun tweaks with that particular style. Um, then there's Shrade. Shrade is Rain's twin sister. Or is she her little sister or her big sister? We really don't know. We just know that they're sisters. And Shrade is the goddess of the rift. And her legacies are called spirals. Her spirals are patterns of disruption, recursion, and fractal precision. And so the feature style I want to talk about with her is shatters the perfect form. And basically this style breaks symmetry and it unravels rhythm to dismantle, even to create a flawless technique. It's, again, like I said, it's all philosophical. Again, me loving Kung Fu and martial arts and delving into all this stuff, this is, what I've come up with. I hope it doesn't confuse people. I'm hoping that everybody gets really excited like I am, And last but not least is the Nameless One. And the Nameless One, this God, people don't even remember. They don't know his name or their name, her name, whatever, we don't know, has basically been lost to iniquity. This is a God who erased themselves from history in order to complete what the Septemvirate Legacy set out to do. And the styles of this God are called the Absences. The Nameless One offers the legacies of erasure, silence, forgotten truths. Each absence is a martial whisper that unravels reality. And his featured style is called Steps Where No Name Follows. So it's about invisibility, striking without memory, leaving no trace behind, only questions. So those are the 7 gods.
I'm digging them. I'm liking all the flavoring and like what they embody and all that, and like it's really, yeah. I could see like that. Like just looking at that from like I guess a player perspective gives me like, hey, I have a pretty good pool of gods to worship for my powers. I'm assuming that's how it works, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah.
Well, we're going to get into that because now I went all that. Now again, the gods are going to be nebulous. The gods they're going to always be referenced, but they're not necessarily the draw or the push of what the players are doing. So the players are basically the types, I should say. The types are reflections of the gods. So the first one we talked about was Mizani, the aggregate. So that type is actually called a harmonist. So they balance. They're about balance. They master balance. They're graceful and they're dualists by nature. Duality, I should say. After the harmonist, then we go to Madagascar, who is the dreaming god. His types are called the architects. They're techno-mystics, they're magical engineers, they're designers, because of dreams, because of idea. Palador's types are called apex. as in apex predators. You know, beast forms, they're predators, they're primal sovereigns. Um, then there's the Vanguard, who are members of uh, Stratus. You know, they're Stratus's people. You know, and you know because they are the warriors. They are oathbound. You know, they're about passion and all of that kind of stuff. Then there's the Transcendent, who are the children, or should I say, the followers of Shrade, and they're reality dancers. You know, because like I said, she's about raw power, the Mra itself, the primordial forces of existence. And last but not least are the Resonant, who are those who function under Rain's behalf. You know, and they are they're storms personified, elemental conduits, and so on and so forth. It's it's really kind of cool, when you look at all the types and how they kind of roll out and do. Oh, and I'm sorry, the hollow one, the nameless ones, they're called the Hollowed. I forgot about them. And again, they're stealth, they're forgotten, they're those who they do things even before, they do things, and after it's done, people forget that it was ever done. They erase things. So it's kind of, that kind of idea. And if that was too much for somebody, go ahead. I'm sorry, you got that question?
I mean, my question, this might have been like what you were leading into with what you were saying was, so again, each of the types is tied to a god, who they revere or whatever, followed. Does that mean, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier with the harmonies and whatnot, when you pick your type, there's only certain foci you can pick, like based on that harmonies list, or how is that going to work?
Okay, so the harmonies list, the list of 7 styles that fall under a god, there's suggestions, but there's gonna be built in that you can personalize it. So if you wanted to manipulate a harmony or an absence or whatever, a legacy, if you wanted to manipulate it in some way, you'll be able to. But you have 7 to choose from when you decide to walk the path of that particular legacy. Another aspect of the game that I've added in is also something called birthrights. Birthrights are when you're born, what auspice. So if you're born under the auspice of a god, basically your soul bears a divine echo of one of the 7 gods. And, having that, if you're born under Rain, you're called and it's in your character sentence. So this is an addition to the character sentence. All of this, everything I'm talking about now is when you're building your character, this all comes into play. So born under Rain, you're Stormborn. Under Madagascar, you're Dream Marked. Palador, Wild Blooded. Stratus, Emberborn. Shrade, Fractal Blooded. Mazani, Mirrorborn, or Nameless. You're Hollow Marked.
Are those examples, or are there going to be multiple, like, birthrights per god or whatever?
Those are the birthrights. Okay. Those are static. Those are going to be those will fall in the same category with your descriptor. When your sentence will be, when you write your character sentence, it's going to say character name, descriptor, birthright, type, legacy.
Do you have an example sentence on hand?
I do. Where is it? Give me a second.
Like, I can kind of picture it, but I got stupid brain, so it'd be nice to hear an example.
Don't worry about it. Hold on.
But I'm really liking everything I'm hearing so far about how the character stuff goes and how you're flavoring all the gods and stuff. Like, it's super flavorful, and Kedub said it earlier. It's all about style in this game, and there's a lot of style to be had with your descriptions and whatnot. Yeah.
So a sentence would be, Ancient Albatross is a fierce resident who is stormborn, walking the path of the Genesis Fist.
Okay.
So,
Digging it,
so
I'm digging it.
fierce, resonant, stormborn, Genesis Fist are going to give you all of your character stats and abilities.
Okay. And how do birthrights differ from descriptors? Is it that they're built into the types, or like do you choose one of the birthrights when you like? How does that? How does getting the birthright work exactly?
You choose your birthright.
Okay.
Here's the cool part about it. You can be born under a birthright but follow a different God's path if you choose.
Okay.
So, like for example, Stormborn is rain, but Genesis Fist is one of Shrade's styles, one of her sister styles. You know what I'm saying? So you can be, you can choose those. Everything is a choice, but it all helps you develop these interesting and different characters. Because you never know whose auspice you're born under. And I think what that's going to do is also kind of a flavoring thing. It's kind of this is kind of in place of flavors. I don't actually have flavors in the game. And I think by choosing a birthright can be more of like, you're getting those flavors, but it's built in automatically to your character.
I kind of
So
did that because I could see like you grow. Just think, speaking as a player playing a character, right? You could be you're born whatever you have the auspice or favor of one god, but through your life's travels or whatever, you end up worshiping another god or whatever. Like,
exactly.
I could definitely see how that plays out. Yeah, that's
Um,
neat. I dig it. I'm very excited to see it unfold when it's all ready.
I'm just trying to make sure I got all the character creation stuff.
I'm trying to
Uh,
think. Oh, so one other thing you had mentioned, which you didn't expand upon, your four types that are akin to the, warrior, adept, speaker. Damn, what's
oh yeah,
yeah?
Hold on.
I'm blanking. What the fourth one is? Holy shit! Explorer? Did I
Warrior,
say
speaker,
explorer?
explorer. Yeah.
Okay. Holy shit, we're terrible. And I guess
All
my
right.
question about those four is, right, is do you choose those if you want to be like an atheist type character or like someone who doesn't really believe in like or like feels it has a huge impact on their life, or like how does that come into play lore wise?
Lore wise, these are the characters who they'll still get a birthright. They're born under a god, but they chose not to walk the path of any of the sky claves. Because there's 7 actual factions or enclaves, and those enclaves are kind of dedicated to the gods. So if you choose not to walk that path, you know what, you can still pick a legacy if you want to, or you can develop your own style of martial arts. You can develop your own style, and it could take pieces from different ones, all based on your birthright. So I'll jump
No.
right in.
Oh, yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So how does that work? Like when you're one of these like build a bear type characters, like is there gonna be guidance for like when you hit tier 2, you can pick from tier 2 from
Yep.
any Okay, cool,
Yep.
awesome. Yep, yep.
Yeah, like there's going to be a list, just like in the Cypher System rulebook. There's just going to be a list of uh, low, mid, and high tier abilities, and you'll be able to go in and develop your own martial art if that's what you want to do. I don't want anybody to feel, I don't want to take anything from what Cypher already offers, and Cypher is very much a build a bear game. Let's plug and play. So I wanted that option to be there for players as well. I think the birthrights is just a cool thing that will be overarching regardless. But you don't necessarily have to walk the path of the gods if you don't want to. Um,
I like
and
that.
the types, the 4 types are the primal, which is the warrior, legendary weapon masters, fluid fighters, primals blend instinct with perfection, turning any battlefield into a personal arena of dominance and grace. The precursor is my answer to the explorer. They're ruined, scouring explorers and seekers of forgotten truths. Precursors use relics, ancient tech, lore to unlock secrets, disable threats, and reweave strands of history. The Mancers, those are my answer to adepts. Elemental specialists who forge deep bonds with a singular force. They might choose fire, shadow, time, or more. Mancers channel raw power with refined control, becoming one of the chosen in their domain. And last but not least, to replace the speaker are the Griot, oral mystics, cultural guardians, spirit-guided storytellers. Griots wield song and memory and ancestral power to inspire, heal, and lead. Their voice is both shield and blade. So,
is that a real word?
What? Griot?
Griot? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's South African storytellers.
Okay, cool, nice. I dig it. I dig it. Okay, you see, I'm like the most uninformed person, so I'm so sorry.
No,
that's why we ask. That's why we ask. So other people who may not know now know.
Yeah.
Oh, but I dig all those names. I like them all.
So yeah, I wanted to, like I said, there are differences from the four core types in the book. They are very unique unto themselves, but they will have full write-ups in the book as well. So these are options. Again, and it really is going to depend on how you want to run your game. This has been a passion project. I didn't realize just how much I was going to enjoy doing this, and I didn't realize how much. I actually have a file folder that I call miscellaneous, because I just like come up with shit and I have to go, you know what? It's not part of this. That has to go over here. That can be something later. That can be added in, because it's crazy how much stuff has just been pouring out of me for this whole thing.
I know the feeling. Like, I don't think on this phone. I think I lost it to my old phone. It's probably still on my old phone. But I have like not even a Google Doc, just a note on my phone, like Samsung Note or whatever. Like whenever I get it, like it has nothing to do with the Entropic Isle or whatever. I forget what my last one was. I was like, fuck, that was a great idea, but it doesn't work for this. Write in a note, forget about it for now, and then I'll look at that note at some point in the future. It's definitely a mood.
You asked another question, so I guess I might as well answer. You asked me about, I think you said, did you say something yet about like what I've added to the game?
Yeah, so like what, because that was the question that kind of bled into the character creation question. It kind of led into it, but the initial question, which I know you've told us there's some changes, and like I forget what you call the exploding dice mechanic, but there's changes to the rules, additions. Like, what are they?
Right.
What have you tweaked? What have you added?
So there's two mechanics that I'm pretty excited about. I mean, actually, I'm excited about all of them, but I'm really looking forward to it. And hopefully, Al, we can get on here one day and just like do a playthrough and show people. But and I've been playing with it. It's called the Cascade Effect. That's the exploding dice mechanic. The Cascade Effect is basically in addition to rolling a 17 to a 20. If you roll a 17 to a 20, you get to roll again, and you're rolling again on the Morale Surge chart. And Cascade Effects can have they can have different effects. Here's the cool part about it, though. 17 to 20 triggers it. Every time you roll a 20, you continue to roll on the chart. So you could have, if you get hot, like the one time Anthony rolled 3 20s in my game, you get to continue to roll on the Morale Surge chart, which will add these bonuses on top of whatever it is you're doing. And you can make something pretty mythic. And like some of the things that are on the Surge chart is like, it'll lower the difficulty. So if you wanted to attack again in that same round, you roll another attack. It can give you bonus damage. It can give you new effects. There are even effects that will affect your party like if it surges the right way, they'll get a bonus. It's really cool. I think it's really I think it's unique, and I think at the same time it takes nothing from Cypher System. It's not,
I, it is awesome. I love the concept. You mentioned it, but I didn't fully understand it until literally right now. Like, it's amazing. But what I was smiling and laughing about was it at all inspired by the cascade mechanic from Magic the Gathering? Because it's very damn similar, even like the name, right? Because I know you just you started playing Magic, but I know you're not. I don't know how in depth you are in it, but Cascade is a hilarious mechanic where it lets you cast multiple spells. Like, you cast one spell and you basically look for another spell to cast for free from the top of your deck. So yeah, this is just a happy coincidence. Like,
a happy coincidence. Like I said, I played. You have to remember, I played Magic when it first started, and I think I played it for a year before it pissed me off, and I stopped playing. And then a year ago, one of my friends showed me that they had Godzilla cards in Magic, and I was like, "Fuck Godzilla, okay, I'll play." And I really don't play. I got a bunch of damn cards downstairs, but I don't play, for real. But yeah, no, I had no idea they had an effect like that in Magic. That's pretty cool.
yeah, no, and the way it's structured in this, I really love it. Like, it's amazing, and I really want to see how big is the what is it called again? The Mirage
Surge chart, the cascade effect.
Yeah, how
30? I think I have 30 effects, and you can either choose or you can roll randomly.
Oh wait, you can choose. Okay, that's the I thought it was random. Oh shit! So you can choose. No, you by default is choosing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I still think that. That's awesome.
But I mean, it can be random too. I mean, it's just really, if the GM says, you know what, Mirage Surgers are random. Cascade effect is a random thing. Then you just go with the random roll. It's really, I'm going to leave that up to the GMs to decide at their table. What they want to happen.
I could definitely see it that a 17 or 18 is random, and then a 19 and 20 you get to choose. You said it's 17 to 20, right?
Yeah, 17 to 20. Just like the regular,
That's how I would home rule it. I'm already homebrewing your rules. That's how I would homebrew it.
But that's the point. It's open for you to homebrew it.
No, I love it. I love it.
And just for the audience, we are going to take audience questions. If there are questions, please preface it with the word question so Al can grab it and we can keep going. Another new mechanic that isn't really a new mechanic, it's just a variation, is the Audible Cypher. Again, I told you guys I'm a huge fan of Kung Fu movies. I love anime. And so an Audible Cypher, players will get an Audible Cypher slot at every tier. You can use your Audible Cyphers once per rest. So if you use it, then you take your immediate, recovery roll, then you can use it again. But you only have one slot starting at tier 1. What an Audible Cypher is, which is kind of cool, is that you call out your attack. Like, if you watch My Hero Academia and, my boy Endeavor, Prominence Burn, you call it out at the table, you're activating your Audible Cypher. And Audible Cyphers also have a list of bonuses that they give, and they vary, and then I think it's just a fun little twist, it's like, even like the old Kung Fu movies, where the guy would be like, try my eagle claw, exactly.
It's like the dude from from Jackie Chan Adventures. Every time he attacked, he said some different shit. I forget his name, but
yeah, but he would call out his technique, so you call out a technique, and that's what I call your powers. Your powers are called techniques. They're not called powers, they're not called abilities, they're called techniques. So you call out your technique and you get a bonus on top of the technique, but they can also, and here's the cool thing about Audible Cyphers, they can also be used outside of combat. They can be used in social situations as well, depending on what type of abilities you have. So there are just ways but you'll get the flow of it. You'll see it, there's examples for different things, Now, in order, I made a mistake.
Oh,
We were talking about, we were talking about everything. So there are the pools. The pools are going to be power for might, speed is alacrity, and intellect is acumen. And then there's a fourth pool called Mra. This is your Mra pool. This is where you draw your mystical energy from. So it's not just something that we talk about. And I made the mistake of not making that clear when we first started talking. But yes, Mra is a fourth pool that you draw mystical energy from. This is how you power those godlike techniques and so on and so forth. So you can do things mundanely with no problem, no additional cost. They just cost you, from your regular pools. But when you activate an audible cipher, you will spend one morale point every single time, to activate it. It costs a morale, but you get that theatrical flair. You get that, it can become a tool, throughout the game.
Will a player's Mra be tied to their type or whatever, or will it be like a thing like XP where they have like a small pool of it, or like some foci have their own pool, but it's like a small pool on the side, like 3 luck or whatever. How is Mra gonna work?
Mra is connected to your birthright and your god. That's how you get your beginning Mra pool. And
Makes sense.
So your birth.
What else is Mra used for? Aside from audible ciphers and
it's used for your magical techniques. A lot of your magic. Some of your techniques will cost you a regular pool and Mra. Some just cost Mra. And anytime and then you have this other ability, like the cascade effect. Again, just like in Cypher, just like with most things, you can actually activate a Mra surge yourself, but it's dangerous to do it because that's when you get backlash. So there's a backlash chart. So you can, I call them surges and overcharging. So you can burn extra mod to boost your abilities, but you risk backlash. And backlash can be, I'm hindered on the next round to a cataclysmic mutation. You can be mutated by using too much Mra, but it's high risk, high reward.
Let me ask you this question just specifically because it tends to happen to my characters in long-term games. Can any of those backlashes make you lose a limb?
Those things are like, that's the whole point. It's really up to your GM. You could be mutated into another form completely. If you overcharge and it's like a really bad result, it could be.
I'm having players' arms blow up for sure. For sure. I don't think I did. That was I'm answering Ketup. Ketup asked did I lose a limb in his game. That was damn, I'm so bad with names. It was the other, I think it was Gus's character, I believe. I don't remember the character's name at all. Not even a little bit. But I'm pretty sure it was Gus's who was down an arm at the end. Yeah. No, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, so, and the last thing I'm going to bring up, because the game is, this setting is high risk, high reward as well. I stole the stress system and retooled it, and I call it Vigor. Players now have a Vigor chart, and Ketup came up with a great thing. I wish we had completed the character sheet. I'm still playing with it. I got some more stuff to do, and I'm gonna, get his approval and get some more ideas. But Ketup had a great idea. We put a triangle in because you have 3 levels of Vigor, okay? And it's just check boxes. You have 8. You can take 8 points of damage, and it doesn't matter if it's speed, if it's mental, physical. It doesn't matter. You have 8 boxes on each side, so you have 24 Vigor. Every time a level of vigor is taken, then you will start taking damage to your pools. It's your choice. You can take damage to your pools, or you can drop down the damage track. One or the other. You know.
Brutal. I dig it though. I like it.
You know. So, and if you take, and there's one cool aspect what I stuck in there is if enough damage is done in a single attack to like blow out all your vigor, then you have the choice. You can deplete one of your pools and drop down the damage track, or you would have or you end up losing, like, I can't remember, I have it written down, and I didn't pull that chart up, but basically you're going to either drop down the damage track or get rid of your pool, deplete a pool, and by depleting that pool, what it does is it saves you from like certain death. You know, because losing all your vigor at once is not a good thing. That's like a shock to the system. You know.
How do you recover those points? Is it just with your normal recovery? Like, let's say you do a recovery roll, you recover 6, you recover the 6 normally, then tick off 6 from the vigor, or how does that work?
Every time you lose a level of vigor, so if you lose 3 levels of vigor, it's going to cost you 3 recovery rolls to replenish all 3 levels. So you can recover a level. So when you make a recovery roll, you'll recover a level of vigor, and it's kind of cool how it works. So let's say you roll 6 for a recovery roll, right? If you want to recover a level of vigor, you can only put 3 points back into your pools, and those other 3 points replenish your level.
Okay, so you gotta split it.
Yeah, split it in half. Okay. So half of your recovery roll can go towards recovering a level of vigor.
Is it only that way, or can I say I want to heal all my vigor and just roll only vigor?
If you want to heal all your vigor, you have to give up your roll completely.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
There would be no roll. It would just
so I just say, hey, I'm going to heal my vigor, and I'm not going to roll any dice, and that's it. Okay, that makes sense.
Your vigor will take up, all of it.
Okay,
so you can do it that way, but it's always tied to a recovery roll.
Okay.
And I wanted to do it that way because, again, you've heard me talk about it, just like with superheroes and stuff like that, or wizards. When they deplete themselves, you don't get to heal everything just because you went to bed. That has always irked my soul. It drives me absolutely bonkers. So I built that in, so there is a cost, there is a cost to depleting your vigor. There is a cost to spending all your MRA. Oh, and that's the other thing. MRA with recovery rolls too. You can only add points back into your MRA pool on your 10-hour recovery roll.
Okay, I dig that. It makes magic it makes what's the word I'm looking for? The resource management side. It's impactful. Your magic, like when you use it, you need it to be impactful. Right. It's not coming back until the next day, basically.
Right, because you're spending of yourself in order to be a conduit for this, metaphysical God energy is what it is.
I dig it. And
again, everything is flavor. I'm just saying, just really to give you everything. Everything is flavorful. So, if you lose 1 level of vigor, that's called the first crack. If you lose 2 levels of vigor, it's called the fracture. And if you go all 3, that's called the breaking point, because that's when you have to make that decision about how you're going to manage, your vigor being just depleted like that. So
I dig that. And at that point, does it just max out and you got to stay there until you deal with it, or like can it keep going up? Like how does that, like when you've reached like you lost all your vigor or whatever, like
if
is it just going to stay that way? Okay.
Oh no, if you lose all your vigor, then all damage starts going to your pools.
Okay.
So you do have a longer. It gives you a longer lifespan, and it also takes that onus off your pools that a lot of people always complain about. But it still brings it back full circle. If things get bad.
I dig it. I dig it. It makes sense. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, before I move on to the next question, I don't even know if we're gonna be able to touch on all the questions before we overrun. But what you call it? You mentioned all the legacies, the harmonies, the tempest, all the whatever foci, right? Are all those going to be brand new, written by you, or are you going to be reusing some from the Cypher core book, or what's that going to look like?
I've rewritten all of that stuff is written by me. There's again, like with most Cypher products, I even have 40 or 50 new descriptors, that are not in the Cypher System rulebook. Some of them are inspired by them. Some of them will, kind of overlap, but they're like all new descriptors.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Nice. That's
Like,
always nice to see.
I'll just give you. Let me see. Where are they at? Descriptors. I just give you some of the names of some of the ones: adventurous, altruistic, austere, bitter, boundless, brutish, cynical, dark, decisive, draconian, elegant, evasive. So those are just some of the different ones that are there.
Nice.
And I did that again because I wanted that flavor. I wanted it to be flavorful. I wanted it to be, when you write your sentence, ancient think ancient albatross is an imperious harmonist, who walks the path of the onyx storm. So stuff like that. I wanted to bring that kind of stuff.
It definitely helps cultivate that style that we've been talking about this whole time. That flair, so to speak, or whatever. It really immerses you, or has that like it all feels very oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not prestigious, but you have that element of like godhood or whatever, godlike. Like
it should be mythic.
There we go, mythic. There we go. Yes, that's the word. That's the word you've been using. Yes. For sure, it definitely helps enforce that.
That's the whole point.
And I guess piggybacking off that new stuff, right, that you're writing, will this book also have brand new ciphers and artifacts? And how many are you aiming for of each, if you are?
Oh boy, yes, there are definitely going to be ciphers and artifacts. I can't even tell you how many. I don't have a number that I'm aiming for. They just kind of jump out. I've done a little thing with retooling how artifacts work. So artifacts are going to be fun because all artifacts throughout the game, yes, they will all still have depletion rolls, but their depletion rolls, you'll be able to recharge your weapons or your item, your artifact, whatever. There's ritual that goes along with it, and every one of the rituals are basically 7 days, and they have, I'll have it. I'm gonna have a ritual builder, for you, so you can learn how to build them. But like all the artifacts that I create will have the ritual tied right to it for you to recharge it if it depletes. And it's a 7-day period. Again, the Septemvirate Legacy, everything is 7, a multiple of 7. And it might not just be 7 days. Sometimes it could be 7 weeks. It could be 7 hours. It could be 7 months. It could be 7 years. It really depends on the artifact,
Artifact, I use it once every 7 years if it depletes.
Well, because you depleted it. You messed up, So hope you don't roll poorly on one of those like super powerful artifacts.
But I really like that ritual idea because something I've seen with, I guess I don't really read a ton of settings, but something that doesn't super stand out, like just reading the Cypher core book, is it's really vague how you recharge an artifact. Like it really leaves it up to like the GM's discretion. I think even in the book it just tells you like whatever makes sense. Like they find like you know, a
Right.
artificer. They find like a
Right.
magician. You know, they put it in the ground in a weird spot. But defining it with a ritual, I really, really like that.
So, and that's another, and there's the other aspect that I did the front portion, the front loading of artifact. Whenever you get an artifact, if you get one, you have to attune to it. And attunement to an artifact costs you 7 morale points as well. So you have to spend in order, and when you reattune, you know, when you recharge it, you have to spend that 7 points again. You know, so anytime, so there's a cost associated with it, you know, but in the same breath, you don't have to give up your cool item. It's not broken. It's not like I can't have it anymore unless you do something to become unworthy, depending on what kind of artifact you're using.
No, that's awesome. I love that a lot. That's really cool. I dig that so much. I'm really
I
excited to see
gotta
what they
answer.
look like.
I gotta answer, Jason. Uh, there's not a focus or a legacy called shifts paradigms, but that's something that I didn't tell you guys about. There are, I should say, paradigm shifts in the game, which is a variant on power shifts. So
I love,
they're called paradigm shifts.
bruh. That's amazing. I knew you had to do it, but that's amazing. That's
I had to. I mean, I had to.
bruh. All right, let me look at my notes here. That was fucking hilarious. Oh man. I guess again going along with this same line of questioning, right? Will you also be adding your own NPCs and creatures? About how many? You probably don't have a number because of how you're writing, but what will they look like or be like?
Well, that's something else that's pretty interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. Every enclave has a companion creature associated with them. So there's at least those 7. There are also going to be some crazy monsters, that, you know, creatures, whatever. There's also, yes, there are several NPCs because there's the 7 factions that the players can be part of. And like I said, and then you have those who don't want to be a part of a faction, do not have to. But then you have the dark factions. And these are going to be your problematic, you know, these are going to be your antagonists and so on and so forth. And there's four major ones that I have right now. And I think I'm going to keep it at 4 major ones, only because I don't want to bog the GM down in that respect, and also give them room to build whatever it is they want to build, you know. So much of what I'm doing, much of the, like the 7 stuff, 99% of that is going to be all player facing.
Love that. That is cool. Dang, I forgot what else I was gonna say now. Shit. I was just laughing at threw me off guard. Crazy Weasel in chat said petition to MTG power shifts shall forever be known as paradigm shifts. Signed to CU community. That is freaking hilarious.
I'm glad you guys have that much faith in me.
And I guess I can actually ask my last question here and not go too far over. How expansive will the lore and setting sections be? Will it be like super like fleshed out like a Tala style with like a ton of details, or will it be more on the shorter like side with like just some like bright bites for people to take off those small details to make their own stuff?
There's going to be both. There's going to think of Numenera and the level of detail, but just the level of openness. That's what I'm going for. You know, there's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of things for you to choose from, but then in the same breath, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I just kind of glaze over and open up. Because one thing I need to share with you. There's another thing that I'm going to share with everybody real quick, since you brought it up, and it's really important. I built a life path random chart for when you're building your character, which helps you build your character background.
Is that like a series of tables, or like what
Yes.
is that like?
Yes, do it. Let's do it this way. Let's just real quick. Let's generate a character sentence for you real quick.
Okay.
We'll generate your character. Okay, so which of the do you just want to use? Let's just use a griot or something like that. One of the four, or unless you want to use one of the seven. It's your
No, I
call.
would say Vanguard.
You want to do a vanguard, okay?
Vanguard.
And tell me that I'm going to give you just a few descriptors, and you tell me which one of these sound right for you because you're a vanguard. So, bitter, brutish, cynical, decisive, elegant, evasive, exultant.
Go with decisive.
Decisive, okay? So write that down. So you are a decisive vanguard to start. Which birthright would you think your character was born under?
Probably the nameless one.
Okay, so you are a decisive, resonant, hollow mark. Who is hollow marked? And you know that we'll just use the one that I mentioned earlier. Wields twin glyphs. Wields the twin glyphs.
I dig that. Okay.
All right. So now what we do, you have a character sentence. And everybody always talks about, sometimes having difficulty getting their background and so on and so forth, right? So what we do is we have 8 charts. I have 8 charts that I built. And I did that on purpose. I was going to do 7, but I said, you know what, we need 8 charts because to make this work. Because what happens is if you choose, because you can stop rolling whenever you want. You don't have to roll at all. But every 2 charts you roll on earns you a bonus point. So you can earn up to 4 bonus points, pool points to spend at character creation by rolling on the charts.
I would roll all of them.
Okay, so let's roll on the charts. So first of all, we're going to find out where you're from. The first chart tells us where you're from, what skyclave you were origin from. Roll a d20.
All right, 1 second. Fuck. I have my dice here. I just didn't know which one really needed me to reach for. Here we go. My D20, tiny little dice. My tiny little, I'll show you. Tiny little dice. A 5.
You are from KO Resonant, a vibrational metropolis guided by sound and logic shaped by raw frequencies.
All right. Hopefully I spelled that right.
KWRA, but KO, it don't really matter. You know what it is. Number 2 is called your Mra revelation. When did Mra first touch your life? How did it change you? So
are these all D20s? Okay.
Yeah, all D20. You just roll a D20.
17.
You once wept tears that etched glowing glyphs in a stone.
All right, wept. I'm truncating it. Wept glowing glyphs. All right. What's the next one?
First legacy influence, and it's basically what was your first exposure to the divine legacies of the 7?
4.
You defeated a legacy initiate in ritual combat. They gifted you their name.
Defeated initiate. Got name. Cool. All right, what's next?
Number 4 is the crucible moment, and it says this is what tested you so deeply that it reshaped you into who you are today.
12.
You walked away from the gods, and you haven't looked back.
Oh, shit. I'm an ungodly person. Oh, shit. All right, what's the next one?
So it makes sense, though. It makes sense. That's why you don't follow a legacy path.
Nah, dig it. All right, what's the next one?
5 is echoes of your past life. What lingering memory or impossible truth follows you from before you were who you are?
13.
You once held a blade with your name etched in it. The name is not the name you hold now.
That what the fuck? That lines up so good. What is this? I held the blade with old name, basically.
Yeah.
Held blade. That's amazing. That lines up so good. Holy shit. All right, what's the next one?
Present, number 6 is present alignment. And it says, where do your values and momentum currently point? What defines your drive now?
I got a 4 for that one.
Seeker of the Black Star. You were driven to uncover the truth behind the Septemvirate disappearance and the lies that left in their wake.
All right. I dig that. I'm godless. I'm trying to figure out where the gods went because they're definitely not here no more.
No, this is number 7 is known and unknown bonds. Who shapes your path, even if they no longer walk beside you?
10.
You broke a sacred vow. Someone else paid the price.
Oof. Someone else paid. I'm putting this in the Twitch chat, by the way. It's full of typos and shit. I'm typing with one hand. It's whatever. All right, and the last one.
And the final one, the reason why I put it there, and it is optional.
The last one?
Yes, the last one is always is optional. But if you, like I said, you take all 8, you get 4 more points to put in your pools. Okay. And the reason why is because this is also kind of it can kind of build on a character arc, because there will be character arcs, but this kind of pushes your character arc in a certain direction. So roll a 20-sider.
Yep. And this one, 3.
Oh God, this is great. You are a splinter of a God's forgotten will. What God you do not know?
Huh. That's interesting.
So you see how a life path kind of gives you a character, that gives you something to build on. If you're especially like me, the type of GM, I love my players to give me background stories. Now you've got.
I built one right here, like just with those rollers. This whole ass backstory.
You got a massive. You already got a background story, and now we got stuff to play with as player and GM. You know, it helps you build a character arc. It also, it touches on a lot of things that, as a GM and as a player, you end up discussing during play. But this is like perfect during your session 0. You do this during session 0. Now, as a GM, I'm taking notes. I'm like, okay, I got this to do, and I got this to do, So
I'm liking this a lot. Yes, for sure. I mean, I like what you call it.
You like
randomized teams. Yeah, I love charts. Yeah. So this is awesome. And again, you can use this to build an NPC if you don't want to build like for your characters. You can just roll out use those 8 tables to make an NPC. Now you have a fully fleshed out NPC. Like, that's crazy. It's mad good.
So good. This is the Septemvirate Legacy, guys. I mean, in a nutshell, this is what I've been working on like a crazy man, and I'm excited. I can't wait to really get this, this preview, quick start, whatever you want to call it. I can't wait to have it done and get it out to you guys. Me and KedHub have been talking about this thing that we both were doing. I guess you can call it the pathless adventures, where they don't have any particular order. We might suggest an order for it to go in, but it's just a series of events and an ideology, a framework for you to run this particular adventure. 9 times out of 10, like with most of my adventures, the way I'm writing them, because I've written 3 adventures for this game already. I write them with the static opening, that you need that, and the ending. Everything else in the middle is player's choice. And it just unfolds that way. I have a dungeon crawl, and it's a different kind of dungeon crawl, but I think I'm going to include it as the probably the starter adventure. It's called Oubliette Infinite, and most people, if you know what an oubliette is nothing but a dungeon in the ground. Well, the reason why this is called Oubliette Infinite is because imagine if your oubliette was caught in a spatial rift and they were ever changing. So I actually have a system. I want to make cards, but you can use a regular deck of cards, and you use and basically the two jokers, the ace, king, queen, jack, and the 10 are all your trump cards. And the trump cards cause special effects to happen as you go into a new oubliette room if you draw one of those cards. The cards 2 through 9 is just another room. You draw, and you just keep on going. But those trump cards will cause interesting things to happen in the oubliette. So, and I'm working on getting some getting some trump cards made and possibly have them like in a PDF for people to print up, or and if the crowdfunder does well enough, maybe I can get some actual tarot cards made, like that, larger size cards for you to have at your table to play, to play with. So
That would be nice.
It would be, like I said, I have this massive vision. I'm hoping it comes to fruition. I'm striving for it, and I'm really trying to put together something that you guys, as consumers, as my friends, are going to really enjoy. One thing you're going to notice with this, there's a lot of wild name conventions. Like there's like one of the cities is called the Hypnotide. It's a city tide, a tide bound city in the sky that rises and falls with emotional resonance. Things like that. There's Epexion. There's the City of the Lady. There's the Radiant City. It's so many cool different things that I think are cool.
Let me ask you this before we get out of here, because it's about that time. When do you have an estimated time that the starter guide kit, whatever you're calling it, is going to be available for people to pick up?
Well, 2 weeks ago, I said in about 3 weeks. And I have to apologize because I'm thinking that I'm going to need at least 2 more weeks, maybe 3, to get it all together, because I need to get the character sheet done. I have a quick start little adventure scenario for people to play that I want to include with the preview. I'm going to include pre-gens for you, but yeah, there's a few things that I need to do in order to make this thing polish it up and make it look good.
Nice. I'm quite excited for it. I'm sure everyone else is too. And you know me, I'm definitely, I've told this to Cat Up, like whenever I take a look at someone's new stuff, the first thing I usually try to do is probably try to do some solo play. So odds are when I first get my hands on it, I'm gonna try to like whip up a character or two and just like randomize some little adventure, or maybe run them through the starter adventure by
just
myself.
Just so you know, I am attempting to put together a solo play packet as well. I want to put together, I guess you can call it a virtual GM or whatever, built on the world. So it'll take you to different places. Like I said, the Skyclaves, I mentioned 20. I have mentioned 20. I have 20 different Skyclaves for you during your character building, but there are hundreds, so you can randomize. And I have rules already set up for randomizing and building a Skyclave. If you need to build a unique Skyclave, that's already there. So these are going to be all tools that are going to be there for people who want to do solo play too. I've also written some lore, some short stories that take place in the Septemvirate to give you that feeling. That's another thing that I'm hoping we can get, possibly in a stretch goal. I can put that book out.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Is that going to be in the main book or the starter guide or its own thing? So
It's its own
like
thing.
its own
I
thing.
figure it makes it. I don't want it to be. I don't want, because it's just too much. I mean, I can't put out a 500-page book.
I will say this. I could say, and I forget which book I've seen this in. You can have little tidbits like quotes from the books in
Right.
parts of them, just not the whole text. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's kind of the plan. And then I want to have, like I said, I have a series of short stories, and I took on I made it a point to try to write them as if they're being told by a fireside, so these are going to be tales of the griot, so it'll be like the griot sitting there retelling the histories. It's not going to be written in, typical text, typical short story format.
I like it.
I said,
Cool.
I've thought a lot about this. I know I'm rambling, but I've thought a lot about this.
No, it shows. It shows. It definitely shows that you've thought a lot about it and you've put a lot of effort into creating this whole setting, world, whatever you want to call it, book. And yeah, it seems like it's going to be a home run, quite honestly, with all the stuff you're adding in there. Yeah.
I'm hoping, I didn't notice because I was so into talking. I don't know if did we get any questions from the chat? Did anybody have any questions for me or anything I may have missed that somebody's interested?
We did not get any, not that I saw.
Okay. Did that work?
But I will piggyback that by saying, and the bot is alley-ooping me, if you do have questions for Dean about this and want to talk to him about it, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord where he resides, and you can definitely see him on the member list. You can either message him in general or
Directly.
DM him, whatever. Cat Up's a question, but why though? Ooh, but this has been a great chat though. Dean, thank you so much for talking to us about your book, your setting, your world. Definitely can see that you're putting a lot of heart into it, and it shows. But before we get out of here, was there any last things you wanted to mention about anything?
Only the last thing to mention, guys, is like I said, I'm excited. I hope you are too. When this thing, when you get this taste in your hand, please feel free to message me, email, whatever the case may be. It'll all be there for you to contact me. Give me feedback. Let me know if I need to fix something, tweak something. If you have an idea of something that you think could go in there, I'm open. If you're watching this on YouTube, same thing. You can message me on YouTube. Just at me on YouTube, because the three of us are, we see all the messages. Hit me up on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. You can come to the Discord, Twitch, Blue Sky. I'm in all those places. So, just hit me up, guys. And thank you, everybody, for who came out to listen to me ramble about my dreams. No Cat Hub, not OnlyFans. Unfortunately, I gave that up. I'm a married man now.
And with that, if you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord for all things Monty Cook games. We have the biggest fan run Discord, and yeah, there's games being run all the time, so join up if you like Monty Cook game stuff. Discord not your thing? Join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's definitely people there chatting up about Monty Cook game stuff, looking for players occasionally. Again, not as much as our Discord, but definitely some activity being there. If you want to support us, our videos will always be free, but if you want to give us a little donation, you can give us a little donation on Ko-Fi. Or if you wanted to get something for your money, you can buy a little merch at our merch store, like shirt Dean has on there, or we have hats, stickers, all that sort of stuff. I think that's everything. And just be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. I didn't mention that. It helps our channel. All our videos, if you missed them or didn't see the whole thing here, it will be uploaded to YouTube the next day, and you can watch it in its entirety, see what you missed and whatnot. Any final words before I get us out of here?
Well, I just figured I could say it tonight. From us at the CU, we will see you later. But unless Al got something else.
Peace. Have a good night, everyone.